Don't miss the Morning Brew with Brooks Brewer, the Brewmeister, weekdays at 7 a.m. here on KOKL, Okmulgee, Oklahoma.
SJ, welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. SJ, Stungo, Gary Fife, Jahojifkados. Welcome to Mvskoke Radio here on The Brew. We have scheduled this morning to talk to the director there at the Native Heart Health Summit. And so far there is only me in the studio. So here we go with live radio. Make it up as you go and be prepared for the surprises. Hopefully we'll have someone make it there and make it here, rather, and we'll be able to fill in on the Native Women Heart Health Summit coming up February the 1st. But in the meantime, we'll start off with our community announcements, which we normally reserve for the end of the show. And we'll see what happens here. Okay. Starting off, we have the Mvskoke Creek Nation 2018 Scholarship Pageant is still accepting applications. You may submit an application up until February the 28th. Now, there are two divisions. Junior Miss, ages 14 to 17, those are high school students. And the Miss Mvskoke Nation, ages 17 to 24, that's attending or enrolled in higher education. Lots of prizes there, including $1,500 cash, scholarships, beaded crown and silver, crown, cedar crown box, Pendleton blanket, matching banners, flower bouquet, photo shoot, and traveling opportunities as the Goodwill Ambassador for the Creek Nation. And winners will promote our nation during their year-long reign through various educational, cultural, and public appearances. Pageant winners will be allowed to expand their cultural knowledge of our history, customs, and traditions. So if you'd like to request an application, you want to phone 918-549 let's see, 2557. Now, good news here. I believe we have Miss Crawford on the line here. So let's welcome Rachel Crawford here. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Well, we had hoped you'd be here in studio, but we'll take it and we'll get it done this way. Works for me. Now, what's your title, your organization and your title?
My title is the Regional Director for Native American Initiatives at the American Heart Association, and I am based within the Southwest affiliate out of Oklahoma City.
And the American Heart Association, of course, is a national organization. Now, this is like a Native American Concerns segment. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay, great. Well, it's nice to know that there is a kind of a specialized look at the problems here. Now, we have a significant event coming up here pretty quick here. The Heart Health Summit, is that correct?
That's right. We have our Native American Go Red for Women Heart Disease Health Summit, and that's going to be in Glenpool, Oklahoma at the Glenpool Convention Center, happening on Thursday, February 1st.
Now, is there a theme? Is there a specialized kind of look at Native women and their situations there?
Yes. So we've actually designed this event specifically for our Native population, who we know is impacted by heart disease, more so than many of the general population. Our rates are much higher than, like I said, the general population. And so we've tried to put together an event that really looks at the prevention aspect, and screening of how we can be more preventative in helping people before you get to a cardiac event.
Now, is there something in native DNA, shall we say, or a lifestyle or something that kind of exacerbates the problem of heart diseases?
Yes. So what we do know is that lifestyle habits really contribute to cardiovascular health. So what we see in the Native community a lot, and this is self-reported through different studies, that Native Americans often have high blood pressure, are impacted by diabetes, have high rates of obesity. They report physical inactivity or lack of physical activity, tobacco usage, and then also having high cholesterol.
Now, what brings this kind of thing on? Is it diet? As I say, is it sort of a natural evolution? Have you kind of figured out what the causes might be there?
Well, I believe it's partly, there are some genetics involved, but with lifestyle changes, you can definitely delay onset, or you can prevent, certain cardiac events from happening to yourself and to family members by looking at the way your simple behaviors, by looking at the things that you do on a daily basis, what you're eating, if you're getting up and moving, getting your heart rate up, if you are taking care of your body, as if you have diabetes or if you have high blood pressure, are you taking your medicines? These are the types of things that can help you, like I said, delay onset or help you to prevent having poor cardiovascular health.
In other words, maybe more salad and less fry bread.
I'm going to say, yes, more fresh fruits and vegetables. Lean meats, I think, are really important to a healthy diet, and, really cutting out that processed food where we don't necessarily need it. I mean, if you look back at our traditional diet before commodities and so on and so forth and things like fry bread, we ate very healthily. We had a lot of lean meat. We were getting out. We were harvesting our own food, which, allowed for us to have physical activity. We weren't hanging around watching TV or sitting on our phones Facebooking all day. We were doing important things and important work that got our heart rates up and, eating healthy foods.
Yeah, the last deer season, I was lucky and I brought home some venison. And I see that it's much leaner than beef when we're cooking it, and adding it to recipes. There's less grease, so to speak. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about? I know everyone can't go out and shoot a deer and things like that.
Right. Talking about, using leaner meats, we're actually supposed to have a certain amount of fish in our diets, which I know doesn't necessarily go hand in hand with some of our traditional beliefs, but it is actually pretty healthy for your diet. And then looking again back at lean meats, like I said, game meat is going to be a lot leaner than some of the ground beef that we get. The amount of meat you actually need in your diet is very small, actually, compared to some of the meals that we eat. Just coming as a Native American myself and growing up in a household where, meat is an important part of our meal. So yes, things like chicken, things like fish, leaner meats. I think a lot of nutrition programs or tribal nutrition programs are looking at incorporating game meat like buffalo meat back into the diets, because that is a very lean and healthy meat for individuals to use as a healthier option.
The challenge of today's lifestyle is complicated even more. Folks who, we got to work, we got to pay the bills and things, but that might lead a lot of folks to the fast food kind of lunch. And even there are choices that you can make that might help you out there. Is it correct?
That is true. You can make healthier choices. I mean, as you'll notice, a lot of the restaurants, or even fast food restaurants, are posting the calorie counts on their meal types, but really looking at reducing, like the sauces and stuff like that in your meals. But another angle that you might look at this is really challenging yourself to make better choices during the week. So maybe doing meal prepping or strategizing on Sunday, putting your meals together for the week. Where are you going to take your lunch? Taking your lunch and preparing your meals at home is always going to yield less sodium, less fats than if you were to go pick up fast food. So that would be the better option.
And there's less crunch on your wallet, too.
Exactly.
Stuff's expensive. The health summit that you've got coming up at the beginning of February looks like it would be, just a thing for folks who are interested or in a situation where they may be dealing with those kinds of problems. So, what's your agenda there? What kind of materials do you have in your program?
Okay, perfect. So actually on Thursday, our day will begin with health screenings. So we will have health screenings available for participants who will come in that morning. I believe we'll have blood pressure checks. They'll be doing some risk assessments for cardiovascular health. They'll be doing BMIs, and I think they will also be offering flu shots. And this will be provided by the Mvskoke Nation Department of Health. So we're very happy to have them come over and offer those in the morning. We'll also look at physical activity, talk about ways that we can incorporate physical activity into our daily activities. Like you mentioned, we're all really busy during the week and rushing from one place to another, but what are some things that we can do that will get our heart rate up? So what we're recommending is 5 days a week, at least 30 minutes of physical activity that gets your heart rate up. And some of those things can be done by, moving around quickly at home. It doesn't have to all be 30 minutes at one time. You can do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at lunch, 10 in the evening. It's just getting that 30 in a day. The other thing is we'll have a provider there talking about living heart healthy, and she'll provide a more clinical side of how you prevent heart attacks, prevention strategies for stroke, what are the different types of stroke. So she'll be providing a more clinical side of information for our guests. And then we'll be doing some breakout sessions. We're really trying to make our sessions interactive and not just presentations where people talk at you, but trying to help people think and experience, what we're trying to educate on during this conference. So we'll have a Shop Smart session. So we've kind of set up a grocery store, and we'll be playing some scenarios with our guests and teaching them how to shop, like you said, wisely at planning, picking good choices at the grocery store. And then we'll be having a session, an interactive session again on how to cook, so like a cooking demonstration, how to make healthy meals at home. So we'll have those two sessions, as well as looking at the mental health aspect of heart health. How can you reduce stress and how stress impacts your overall heart health. So we'll do that, and then we'll also have a Go Red for Women, Native Women fashion show during our lunch, which we've invited ladies to come and participate and to walk and wear Go Red for heart disease and for heart health for the month of February by wearing their tribal wear or contemporary wear or even just a red shawl, but to come out and be representative of those family members or individuals they know that have been impacted by heart disease, or even if they're contemplating making preventative changes within the household. So we're really excited about that. Our MC for the day is going to be Dr. Star Yellowfish, and she's with the Native American Student Services, Oklahoma City Public Schools. So she's a really big volunteer for the American Heart Association, and understands the importance of healthy families and how, those things are important for the students as well.
Now, I think a couple of things we might want to take note of. First of all, that's a pretty comprehensive day, and you get this physical exam almost for free. Is that correct? Right?
Yes.
And the whole session is free to attend, plus you get light breakfast and lunch, right?
Yes.
Not bad.
Not bad, and it's not a full day. It's screenings start at 7:30, and our program ends after the luncheon. So you still have time to get back to your other needs. I know we all have busy lives, but it's just a great opportunity for people to come out and get some education. And even if it's just education they get to take back home to their family members or people who need it, I think it's important. So if people can join us, that'd be great. I believe registration closed online yesterday, but if you do plan on attending, please contact us and let us know.
That way you can kind of plan for your quantities for lunch there. Now,
exactly.
The presentation sounds wonderful, exactly like the kind of thing that people would be needing to pay attention to. Now, who would you recommend that might attend and take advantage of this opportunity? Who would you like to see there?
As many community members as possible. Individuals who have an interest in learning more about heart health, about making lifestyle changes, about living healthy lifestyles. So, I don't want to make it exclusive to any certain group. I know it's a women's event, but we're definitely open to all individuals who want to learn more and educate themselves more on having healthy lifestyles.
Now, if someone has questions about their own health status, or perhaps might need to lose some pounds and things like that, are these the kind of folks that probably should be taking advantage of this?
Absolutely. Like I said, I don't want to close it off to any certain group, but for sure, those folks, if they're interested, they should come in, be a part of the event. And then, of course, we've got our great, our partners at Mvskoke Creek Nation Division of Health. They will be there, and they'll have a team of volunteers, and I'm sure would be happy to follow up with members as necessary, and to just be able to provide that information. They have a great wealth of information on health and how to live healthier lifestyles.
Great. Now, first of all, let's run over some important information. Again, it's Thursday, sure, February the 1st, from 7:30 a.m. to 1:30, and it's at the Glenpool Conference Center, which is easy to get to, and plenty of space there. So it's a pretty nice site there. Now, do you have any feel for how Native women in particular are doing nationally? Do you have statistics or some kind of feel for that situation?
Well, we do know that heart disease impacts women more so than it does men. But as far as breaking down the numbers for Native American women, that's really hard to do just based on how we collect data in our tribal communities. But we do know that it is one of the top 3 killers of Native American women across the board. And we have a number of long studies that have been going on trying to research those numbers in the community and to figure out how they're impacting. But like I can say right now for sure, it is one of the top 3 killers, just depending on, its rank could change whichever tribe that you're looking at. So, it's just important to know that it is a big overall problem for Native American people. And again, it goes back to those lifestyle issues that we talked about earlier.
Sometimes those lifestyles are tied to economic conditions, like people...
Absolutely. Looking at the social determinants of health, yes.
Okay, so there's a lot there to be examined. Now, let me ask you just to share a bit about your particular program there. Now, you said it was the... let's see here, where am I here? The Native American focus for the Heart Association. Perhaps you can correct me there. What's that formal title again? Your regional
Native American Initiatives.
Yeah, there we are. Thank you. Now, what's that? What's that all about?
So the AHA has really invested, especially in the Southwest affiliate, in looking at underserved populations who are impacted at higher rates with cardiovascular health issues. And so one of the target populations being Native Americans, of course, because we are impacted at higher rates, and Native Americans also die at younger ages than any other racial and ethnic group in the United States from heart disease. So with that being said, they really made an investment in putting together an initiative that serves the Native American population, both here in Oklahoma as well as in New Mexico. We're expanding that to also reach out to Colorado and Wyoming in the coming year. So putting together programming that's specific for Native American needs. So I've done a lot of programming around healthy eating. We've conducted community cooking classes there with our friends at the Mvskoke Creek Nation Department of Health. We've done several other programs. We've hosted a tribal powwow, looking at drawing people in to talk about the importance, again, of heart health and how you can have healthier options, and then engaging them in physical activity. Coming out to dance and being active and encouraging people to get up moving. That goes back to that physical activity we talked about. We're also looking at, like you talked about, the whole environment of where people live and how that impacts their cardiovascular health. Right now we're looking at community coalitions through collective impact, and looking at those social determinants of health in tribal communities, and what are some ways that we can come together with partnerships to start addressing those issues. Whether they're directly related to cardiovascular health, it will all in some way indirectly lead back to your heart health, because dealing with those lifestyle factors. So we're doing work in that regard as well. We've conducted a number of programs around blood pressure, looking at hypertension management. How can we help people start to take control of their blood pressure and get back to more normalized levels so that they can live a better lifestyle and have reduced risk for having a stroke or a heart attack. So those are some of the things we're doing right now, and I'm sure those things will continue to grow as we continue to expand our initiative here in the Southwest Affiliate.
Wow, that's a ton of information. Now, I'm going to ask you to repeat some of that. Now, in bullet point form,
sure.
If someone were curious about having to deal with some sort of heart disease, what kind of steps should they be taking in their daily lives maybe to improve their health?
Well, of course, there's those lifestyle changes, like I said. Those are things that you can modify. Those are behavior changes, things that individuals can modify on their own. I would definitely encourage them to reach out to their provider to put together a plan that works for them. Not everybody's the same, and they would definitely need that guidance from their healthcare provider.
Okay, you're right. You got to know where you are to begin with, to know where you're going then.
Exactly.
Ms. Crawford, as we wrap this up, is there anything else that we haven't touched on or real important that you'd like to share with us? Or even repeat?
Just if they haven't signed up for the conference, I know registration's closed, but you can reach us. You can call me at 405-593-6931, or you can contact my email, which is Rachel, RACHEL, Crawford, CRAWFORD, @heart.org. If you're interested in signing up for that, please contact us as soon as possible. We are getting our food count in. I want to make sure we're able to meet the needs of the people tomorrow. But they can always reach me at my email for more information. We have a lot of handouts and just information to share with people if they're interested. But like I said, the first place to start is to reach out to their provider and find out where they are with their cardiovascular health, and then take those steps provided with the plan that they are able to get with their provider, primary care provider.
Right. Now, once again, that's Go Red for Native Women Heart Health Summit coming up tomorrow, February the 1st, at the Glenpool Conference Center, which is pretty easy to find. Just find Walmart.
Absolutely.
Check it out.
Yes, but please register.
Yes, please, so they can handle the food. All right, Ms. Crawford, thank you so much. We appreciate you taking time to fill us in this morning. We hope you have a lot of success and a lot of attendance there, and we'll keep an eye on this subject, and who knows, we may give you a buzz back in the future here.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for having me today.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Crawford. Now, we'll be taking a break here, a couple of minutes, and then we'll be back with our famous co-host, Mr. Darren DeLon. He's going to talk with Phil Gover about a charter school. Now, what is a charter school and what good will it do us? But they'll be sharing that information, so please stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio here on The Brew.
I started doing it when I was 11. I wanted to be just like my big brother. And some of my friends were already doing it. We got hooked fast. I just can't get enough. I'm Jacob, and I'm addicted to playing the drums.
There's lots of stuff that makes it cool to be Native. Doing meth isn't one of them. Find something better to do. Check out ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians. Who am I? Am I Indian? Just 'cause I'm a girl from the res, don't make things up about me. What if I move away? Then who am I? Some kids try meth just to escape. But then I think about my grandma, my little brother, my beadwork, my poetry, and I think, I like who I am. And I know meth is not for me.
Check out ncai.org, a message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Welcome back to Mvskoke Radio. This is Darren DeLon. Sorry for my tardiness, everyone. I apologize. I've been getting updates from our office, so just trying to get those taken care of before I headed down here. So want to thank Gary for getting me on the show today. What we are going to be talking about in this segment is I spoke with a gentleman by the name of Phil Gover. He is the director of the Sovereign Schools Project in Oklahoma City, and they got something new. I guess new, but I mean it'll be new around here in the state of Oklahoma. So let's go ahead and talk with Phil. How you doing today, Phil?
I am doing well. How are you doing?
Doing good. Phil, could you tell us, give us a title, tell us a little bit about what you're doing and, what you got going on here within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So about 4 months ago, a team of community members, organizers, educators, former educators, submitted an application for a charter school in Oklahoma City to Oklahoma City Public Schools. That charter school is designed specifically with, in direct partnership with the Native community, the indigenous community in Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. And our proposal is for a school, a middle high school, starting with grades 6 and 9, that would, I think, have a pretty unique take on sort of college preparatory education. And I think sort of the crux of what we're proposing is, I think, really delivering an education to indigenous students, but also non-indigenous students that I think centers indigenous and native people's experiences and ideas. So taking native folks out of the social studies or history classroom and putting them in the science classroom, putting it in our literature classroom, putting it in our math classes, and kind of a really new way to think about how we educate kids, and all with the goal in mind. I think of I think really creating graduating students and indigenous students in particular who are well prepared to defend our nation, defend our rights, protect our sovereignty.
Good. Phil, before I go into my next set of questions, I know a lot of people know they'll get kind of mixed up, the difference between like a private school, charter schools, public schools. Could you tell us a little bit what a charter school is?
Absolutely, yeah. So this is really common, and I think charter schools have been in the news a lot the last year. So mm-hmm. A charter school is a public school that is authorized, to sort of exist and receive state aid, state education money, and federal education money by a sort of local public representative. So in our case, we're asking our authorizer to be Oklahoma City Public Schools. The charter schools are not private schools. So, everyone is welcome to attend our charter school. Yes, our curriculum is more geared, is geared towards and centers sort of indigenous perspectives. Mm-hmm. But that's not that much different for a Native student going to our traditional sort of mainstream system, right, where like their experience is art-centered. So our school will be free, open to the public. We don't discriminate on any basis, except for maybe geography. In our case, if we're authorized by Oklahoma City Public Schools, we're obligated to take kids from Oklahoma City Public Schools district first before we take kids from other outside districts. But other than that, I mean, the similarities are pretty strong to sort of the traditional public school system. I think the at the core of kind of the maybe promise of a charter school is in exchange for a heightened amount of accountability, particularly to student outcomes and achievement. A school site is given more freedom and flexibility to kind of avoid state regulations. So, we can do some really innovative things in our classrooms, and we can try to innovate in some unique ways that, frankly, I think traditional public school systems often can't, don't, and or won't. And so, yeah.
Hey, Phil, before we go into the next one, could I ask, are you speaking into a mic or anything? We're hearing a lot of static on your end.
My apologies. I am speaking into a mic.
Okay. If we could just add just to back up just a little bit from it, and so that static won't be it's taking over your voice. So.
How's that?
Perfect. A lot better. 100% better. All right. Okay. So, you're telling us about what a charter school is. It's almost like it's a public school, state funded.
Yep.
In order to get ready for, I guess, to get the school going, your sovereign community school, what are the requirements to be certified or to be that charter school?
Yeah, for sure. So. It's a pretty lengthy process. The process of starting a school takes at least 2 years. I mean, I've been really thinking about this school and working on this project for a year before we even submitted the application. So it's like a 3-year ramp up. It's a very involved process. Mm-hmm. So it starts with the creation of your charter school application, which is what we did this summer and fall with our school design team. The authorizer reviews that application under Oklahoma law, decides whether or not they want to approve it. If they approve it, the two entities, the group that wants to run the school and in this case, the school district, negotiate a contract over how that school is going to be sort of judged performance-wise, right? So they'll set like performance metrics for the school. Mm-hmm. And then the school's certified. So the next hurdle after that is what's known as sort of the planning year. And in that planning year, you're implementing kind of all of the things that you said you would do in your application. You're pulling together, right? Also during that planning year, you will be putting your school together so that the summer before you start, in our case, it'd probably be June or July of 2019 if our school starts in August 2019, would go through the accreditation process with the Oklahoma State Department of Education. That's a pretty high stakes involved process, but it's coming for a long time, so you have a lot of time to prepare for it. Pretty much every school is, successfully accredited, if they've taken the right, preparation and steps to prepare for the first day of school. And then you open up, on your start date, and then, you start receiving, state aid, using the same funding formulas that fund our, public education system across Oklahoma.
Okay, great. Man, you're right about that. It's a lengthy process. Just from talking about that, with this charter school, you said you started thinking about this about 3 years ago, or really putting it down, getting everything on paper. But was there a start? What was the inspiration that got you into this sovereign community school, this charter school?
Yeah, there's a huge inspiration. So I'm actually a fellow at the NACA Inspired Schools Network. It's a nonprofit that's based in New Mexico. And I've been trained over the last 18 months in, sort of community outreach, new school design, curriculum development, kind of all the pieces that sort of go into creating a school from scratch. The NACA Inspired Schools Network is a spinoff or a sister organization of a charter school in Albuquerque, New Mexico called NACA, or the Native American Community Academy. And NACA's been around for about 12 years. NACA's really the inspiration for all of this in a lot of ways. I first visited NACA when I was a college admissions officer working for Dartmouth College, looking for really talented Native American kids to drag out to the middle of the woods in New Hampshire. And I visited New Mexico was my turf. I visited Albuquerque. I'd heard about this Native charter school, but didn't really think much of it. Decided I would go visit, even though they didn't have any juniors or seniors for me to talk to. And from the moment I walked onto that campus, and this campus, wasn't much to look at, right? Like NACA had very humble beginnings. They're in a beautiful facility now, but when they started, they were in half a dozen trailers and a gravel lot out behind a middle school in Midtown Albuquerque. It was not a sexy location by any stretch of the imagination. But what they had inside those buildings, inside those trailers with their kids and with their faculty, with their school leader, was magic. I'd never seen a place like that, a place where you could be indigenous, where you could be Native and you could be yourself, right? Like, I think we, a lot of us sort of wear these masks or kind of, we put on this, there's the way you have to be when you're out in the world and when you're not among your people, right? When you're at NACA, it's totally different. I've never been to a school that's like that. I've never seen that at a school. I've seen it at, in my own community, in my own, in our own events, our own ceremonies and stuff like that, but never in an educational context. So that's really the inspiration for a lot of this. And NACA, NACA's been around 12 years, so they've seen a lot. NACA didn't start out in amazing school. It takes time. You have to grow and get there. But, our school is going to benefit enormously from the work that, NACA really trailblazed in the last, decade plus. And so, it's my hope that we'll get to where NACA is now way faster than 12 years, because we're going to benefit greatly from them.
So you're saying that, that NACA is going to be pretty much, are you following it as a model to get the SES going?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in some ways, yes. I would say there's going to be some similarities between the program at NACA, if any of the listeners are familiar with that school, and what we're going to do in Oklahoma City, but not exactly. The idea behind the NACA Inspired Schools Network isn't to really create clones of, NACA.
Uh-huh.
I think the founder, Kara Bobroff, she's a Navajo woman. She, had this epiphany that I think is really cool, but also very intuitive, which is this idea that schools have a context, right? They're rooted in a community. And so schools should be serving community needs. And so when people visit NACA and they say, oh, we really need NACA in my town, what they really mean from Kara's perspective isn't that they want NACA. They don't want to clone NACA and move it to Oklahoma City or Tulsa or Minneapolis or wherever, right? They actually want the spirit. They want to capture what the magic that created NACA. Mm-hmm. And that magic came from the community. It comes from talking to people. It comes from talking to parents and students, grandparents and aunties and uncles and community leaders and understanding community needs. And in Kara's case, right, she really cared about the Native community in Albuquerque. So that's the school. That's the community for which she designed the school. But you could take these ideas about community-led design and apply them to any community, right? It doesn't have to be the indigenous community. It could be rural communities. It could be, the African-American community on the northeast side of Oklahoma City. You can imagine a lot of ways to kind of capture that spirit, but it's a pretty different way to think about creating schools. In our system nowadays, I think a lot of people, especially when they hear the word charter school, I think of charter schools as being dropped on communities, right? And then they're, some are good, some are bad, but mostly people just sort of, these schools just sort of move into neighborhoods and communities and they can kind of tear at the fabric of that a little bit. I think the way we approach education schooling, I think ensures, or hopefully ensures, that doesn't happen,
Mm-hmm.
that we really focus and are very attentive to community needs, and kind of hone in, on fixing them and thinking of schooling as a place where communities can go and heal.
Wow. Okay. With Oklahoma City, I'm not even sure of the number of schools that they have. They're both public and private and, chartered, everything like that. But I know Oklahoma City is very diverse with Native American tribes.
Mm-hmm.
I know, and I get, speaking to speaking to the parents, of these Native American students that attend these schools, what was the feedback from the parents, and also, was there something against the public schools? Were they not meeting the students' needs, especially the Native Americans?
Yeah. So there's a couple of good questions there. I'm going to address them in order. I might ask you to repeat that last one so I remember it.
No worries.
To the question about kind of the diversity, the tribal diversity of Oklahoma City, you're absolutely right, and that's also true in NACA, right? When NACA was created, about 60% of their students are Navajo or Pueblo, but they still have well over 60 tribes represented at that school. It's reflective of an urban Indian community, right? That's going to be true for our school too, and I think one of the things that we're going to have to get right, and I think we're going to struggle to get it right at first, but we're going to have to figure it out, is we have to find a balance, I think, between creating a sense of community solidarity amongst Indigenous people in Oklahoma City, which is something that our parents and our community, the people that we talked to over the last 6 months have told us they want to see, right? There's a strong sense in Oklahoma City that our Native people are siloed, right, by tribes, and that there's not a lot of solidarity across tribal communities. Well, this school will, I think, hopefully be a place for all tribes to come together and kind of develop, I think, that sense of solidarity. At the same time, though, right, like, we also want to celebrate, like, the individual uniqueness and greatness of, you know, individual tribal identities and cultures, right? Because one of the things that's very true about New Mexico that's not really true about Oklahoma is, like, the sense that the tribes in New Mexico have a strong sense of, like, regional identity, right? Like regional cultural identity. They're Southwestern, right? Pueblo and Navajo people. Mm-hmm. They've been living together for hundreds, thousands of years, right?
Yes.
In Oklahoma, that's not true. Like, our tribes don't have that sense of solidarity. Like, all of our tribes, or most of our tribes, were moved here, right? Mm-hmm. Like, against their will. So you're not going to have that sort of natural sense of identity. So we're going to have to create a sense of community solidarity, while also, I think, giving kids in particular a really strong sense of pride in who they are and where they come from. And that's going to be a tough needle to thread, but, you know, I think we're, I think we're aware of what that challenge will be. And I think we're, you know, taking steps and preparing to tackle it, because it needs to be tackled.
You know, with, have you heard, like, you know, like I said, these, has any, I get parents said anything about, are these public schools? Are they meeting the Native American students? Are they meeting their needs? You know, we hear that a lot. I mean, a lot of other schools, like, they're just not reaching out to them. I mean, we've heard that from numerous parents. Is that some of the feedback you're getting, or from these parents?
Somewhat. I mean, I would say, like, we, in our conversations with parents, we weren't trying to frame our conversations as, like, negatives or criticisms about, like, what people weren't getting. I think we were more interested in discovering what people were getting or what people wanted to see. That said, I mean, I think there were two things, I think, to highlight here about the local school district that I think we heard from parents. I think the first is there's just and this was probably half the people we talked to said something like this, or some variant of it, which is that, like, there's a sense in Oklahoma City that our Native community, our Native people, our Native families, kids are unwell, are unhealthy. We're on an unhealthy trajectory, and we need to refocus around notions of personal wellness and family wellness and community wellness and mental health and emotional well-being, and that's absent in our schools. Mm-hmm. But our kids need it, right? Like our kids. And not just our kids, but lots of kids, any kid in poverty really, has this sort of intergenerational trauma that you sort of deal with, right? We need to create a space in school where you can heal from that. And that was some feedback we got. So I think another piece of feedback we got, though, too, was that, and this is why we ended up going with, like, a, sixth grade middle high school model as opposed to, say, elementary school, is there was also a sense, I think, from parents that our kids, our Native kids, are slipping through the cracks. That's the word we heard a lot, like a lot, slipping through the cracks beginning in middle school. And what's fascinating is that when you go and you look at the data on the district, the parents' intuition is right. Mm-hmm. The district's own data shows that Native students are graduating in Oklahoma City public schools have the lowest graduation rate of any demographic in the entire district. It's like 57 or 58%. That's almost 20 points lower than the district average, and more than 20 points lower than the state average, right? Mm-hmm. So something's wrong there, and the data suggests it. And the parents know it, but no one can quite put their finger on what it is. And I think some of the ideas that we have in our application, some of the stuff that we identified as community needs, are the keys to turning those numbers around.
Okay. You brought up about how the school, when approved, or if approved, how you're going to be tackling that middle school and high school. You got when we were speaking earlier, or I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, we spoke about. I guess it's a new thing for me. I mean, you might have heard it before, but how are you going to be able to can you tell our audience, like, about the grades, like how what grades you're going to start out with, and how you're going to build up from there?
Yeah, so we're taking a pretty innovative approach to how we're building the school up. I think a lot of people who are familiar with charter schools sort of are familiar with schools starting, say if you're starting a middle high school model, you probably start with the 6th grade, and you take 7 years, right, to fully build out to your first senior class. And that's how NACA did it. That's how a lot of charter schools do it. In Oklahoma, we have a funding crunch. We underfund public education in the state. Just period. And charter schools are even more underfunded than the rest of the public education system because charter schools don't have access to the local sort of property tax and ad valorem money that flows to local school districts. So charter schools have to make do with a smaller budget, and more is demanded of them. So getting to scale, getting to above a certain number of students makes your organization more financially sustainable. And so in order to achieve that scale quickly, we are starting with a 6th and a 9th grade, and we will add a 6th and a 9th grade every year for the first 3 years.
Okay.
So in year 4, we will go into year 4 with a 6th through 12th grade school, and it'll take us 4 years to build it out, and as opposed to 7. And that will make our school, especially like in an urban environment where everything's much more expensive. Like, for instance, I'm going to be spending $250,000 on a facility in Oklahoma City to house all of these kids, right? So in order to get to that scale and to afford those sorts of expenses, you need to grow your school pretty quickly. And so we're taking kind of an innovative approach to doing that, and we're preparing to basically simultaneously open a middle school and high school in August 2019.
What will be the capacity of this school? Whenever you're saying you're adding a grade, like you say 3 to 4 years, should be full capacity. What would that capacity be?
We've asked to be approved to serve up to 75 kids per grade. We anticipate, based on the demand that we've already seen from parents in our local community gatherings, that we're going to hit that. We're going to see 75 students enroll in our 6th grade and 75 students enroll in our 9th grade in 2019. So if we sustained that and we kept our retention numbers high, we could have close to 525 kids in year 4 at our school.
Okay. With Oklahoma City, it's kind of, in a way similar to Tulsa. You got the surrounding communities such as Broken Arrow, Sand Springs, Owasso. Yep. Same with Oklahoma City. You got War Acres, Bethany, Moore, and South, all Norman. That's not that far away. Will the sovereign community schools, will that be able to take some students from those areas right now, or really are you just focusing on the Oklahoma City population?
So we're looking to be authorized by Oklahoma City Public Schools, and what that means, and I think I alluded to it earlier, is that typically in our contract, the way this will be defined, and it's kind of up for negotiation, but these contracts are pretty standard when it comes to this particular section, and it's that we are going to be obligated to serve kids who are in Oklahoma City Public Schools District first before we admit students from outside of that district. And so I'll give you an example of how this might work, or how I think it'll work. Let's say we got 75 kids in our 6th grade, right? 75 seats in our 6th grade classroom in 2019. Let's say 50 of those seats, we get 50 applications for enrollment from kids and families who are in Oklahoma City Public Schools, and we get 40 applications from kids and parents and families who live outside of Oklahoma City Public Schools. Well, we're going to admit all 50 of those kids from Oklahoma City, like they have seats.
Yeah.
And then we have 25 seats left, and we have to run a lottery for the 25 seats for those 40 applications. And the lottery is purely random. There is no edge. There's no, we can't, we don't look at a student's GPA or like anything about them. They're just a number that's assigned randomly. We, do the random number generator. The numbers come up, and those are the kids that get seats. That's how it'll work in our case. I suspect that about 75 to 80% of our kids are going to be from Oklahoma City Public Schools. I do think we'll get some interest from parents and families outside of the district, and I think that interest could be pretty high, even the same if not greater than from parents in Oklahoma City. But that's kind of the breaks with the charter school law and the way these lotteries work is if our authorizer is the district, then we have to preference geographically district kids.
Whenever the school, I mean, if it's going, whenever it's going to get open, I mean, is there like a certain qualification that they have to meet? I know you brought up earlier about the lottery part, the not looking at GPA or anything like that. But before that part, whenever you're getting this school going, getting it ready, the 6th and the 9th grade, is there a qualification that they're going to have to meet in order to come to the Sovereign Community School?
No. Our school is free and open to the public, and any student, regardless of context, academic context, gifted, ESL, special education services, all kids are welcome to our school building, and we're preparing to serve students with a diverse array of needs in all of those areas, in addition to students who don't receive those services. We'll be just like a public school, that has to take all the kids that walk in the door and give them a good education. That's true for us as well. We're a public charter school. We receive state money, we receive federal money, and that's our obligation to the public for receiving that money.
Clarifying on that, whenever you're accepting them, you're saying regardless if they're American Indian or not, you'll still take them in.
Indeed.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Blood quantums, like that's thrown out the window too.
Oh yeah. No, we will ask for students, federal, enrollment status in a federally recognized tribe, but that is actually to gather data for like federal grant making purposes and for things like our Title VI money, all of that stuff that normally flows to a school district, like Title VI, Indian education funding, JOM, impact aid, all of that flows to a charter school. You can think of a charter school as being its own LEA for federal purposes, local education agency. So we need to ask students that information, but it has nothing to do with admission. It's just statistical data that we give to the feds and state government.
Yeah. 2 more questions for you, Phil. The first one is after that 3 to 4 years, when you do have that senior class, they're walking across the stage, going to get that diploma. That diploma, that's that's going to be the legal. I mean, like a diploma, like what you get in a regular school, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, we're our school's an accredited school in the state of Oklahoma by the Oklahoma Department of Education. So, our kids have to meet the same statewide graduation standards as kids at any other high school, and those are some standards that charter schools are also held to. So we have to meet the state standards. We have to do state testing, just like all the other public schools do. And we have to meet all those requirements. So a student that graduates from the Sovereign Community School, in the class of 2024, is going to get a high school diploma, that's just as good as any other high school diploma in the state.
That's great to hear. In a small capsule, we're running out of time. Could you tell us whereabouts y'all are at in, getting the certification to be the Sovereign Community School?
So we have a big day coming up, February 12th, Monday, 5:30 is the Oklahoma City Public Schools Public School Board. I imagine it'll be kind of a packed, crazy house. As some of you might know, the Oklahoma City Public School Superintendent resigned yesterday. Yeah. So there's some high drama going around the city and education circles at the moment. But the district has to vote on our application at the meeting on the 12th. So February 12th, we're going to get our first response. If the district says no, we get to appeal. They get a month to reply to our appeal. If they say no a second time, we can appeal to the State Board of Education, and the State Board of Education can overrule the City School Board and grant its approval, on the strength of our application and community support.
Oh, great to hear. Please keep us in the loop on how everything's going with that.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you very much, Phil, for being on the radio show today to be able to talk about the Sovereign Community School and what you're wanting it to do and what you're wanting it to be. So, Phil Gover, thank you very much, and please enjoy the rest of your day.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Have a good one. And, of course, that was Phil Gover. We're going to go ahead and get into our announcements. Is that right, Gary?
That's right. The first one here is a repeat of the one we started at the top of the show. Of course, just a quick reminder that if you're interested in the 2018 scholarship pageant for the Mvskoke Creek Nation, applications are being accepted until February the 28th. And if you're interested, you can request an application. Give them a call at 918-549-2557.
We got a resource baby shower hosted by the Mvskoke Creek Nation Tribal Child and Youth Coalition. February 27th from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Mvskoke Dome in the Claude Cox Omniplex. For more information, please contact 918-732-7600.
That's the annual Isduce Fest, isn't it?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Might want to check that one out. The principal chief of the Mvskoke Creek Nation has proclaimed that the first Saturday of April will be recognized as National Day of Prayer. He's asking citizens in Mvskoke Creek Nation to join with him and the tribe and families to recognize that as a day of prayer, where the belief in the Creator is important to what our traditions and people are. So he's asking everyone to take a minute there and recognize it, maybe perhaps join them at some point in that National Day of Prayer for our nation.
That'll be great to see that day whenever that shows up. The next one coming up, Red Stick Gallery is operated by the MCN, featuring items that are handmade or designed by Mvskoke artists, and it is open from Monday through Friday, 9 to 4:30, and open also on Saturdays from 10 to 3, and it's at 105 South Grand Avenue here in Okmulgee, right across the street from the Mvskoke Creek Nation Council House. I do not have a number, Gary, so I think if we can find that, we might want to make that known on the next announcement.
We certainly will, but if you're interested, just come to the council house and look around. There it is. As a matter of fact, I can say I picked up a few gifts there, and it's just wonderful to be able to purchase something done by Creek artists.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so nice to be able to share that. Okay, finally, and a last blatant plug. The Mvskoke Media is still selling T-shirts. You might have seen them at last year's festival and around the campus. A couple of different designs there are available on a black T-shirt. Miko and what is that other one? Estejati.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful designs. Plus, there are bags, mugs, and other little tidbits from Mvskoke Media. Now, we have been a busy division here trying to cover all the wonderful things and all of the not-so-wonderful things that we've had. We've had our State of the Nation delivered by Principal Chief James Floyd. Of course, the National State of the Nation delivered by that red-haired guy. I know somebody didn't like that, but there it is. That's an opinion, folks. Only mine and no one else's. But was there anything in there in that State of the Nation maybe for us that you remember or struck you or kind of stuck with you?
I'm going to be honest, and nothing just really grasped my attention. Nothing just, nothing just really stood out. I mean, from that presidential state of the Union, from what I remember, that was not a whole lot of cheering. He only mentioned Russia once. It was just situations like that. So, but with our State of the Nation, unfortunately, I wasn't there, and I should have been. And I had a couple things going that day, but I am going to listen to it again, and I do want to pay attention. I mean, really focus on what that was. I know somebody else was covering it for us. I think it was Liz.
Yeah. When I listened to it the other day, the thing that struck me is there weren't any, let's call them major disasters that we had to deal with. I mean, everything is kind of on an even keel. I know there are still challenges remaining, but they were good words that to say, we're taking care of business. We've come back from financial deficits and things like that. We're looking forward to progress.
Moving forward.
Yeah. And but on the horizon, we've still got to settle this jurisdiction issue that came back from the courts saying, the reservation was not disestablished.
That everybody's going to be thinking about that no matter what, whenever it comes up. Is jurisdiction, reservation, reservation jurisdiction. I mean, it's just that's going to be in everybody's mind, especially whenever this decision comes back.
We find out what the state's going to do probably in April, I think. I think April
or May. That's when the decision will be coming up. So, yeah, we're waiting just like every Mvskoke Creek Nation citizen throughout the jurisdiction and across the United States. We're waiting with just like y'all. So.
Okay, one word of caution for our listeners. We're still under some terrible fire conditions right now. There are burn bans in place around our state. There have been a lot of high winds lately, and I've seen more patches of black grass just driving up from Glenpool.
Same here, and just driving from, coming from my house, which is like north of Morris, I'm seeing it too. And we saw the BIA firefighters coming out, so.
Yeah, well, let's hope that people use their heads, no outside burning. Take it easy. Now, let's get out of here. Huh?
All right, you guys have a good day. So thank you, Gary.
Gary Fife, Jaho Jeff Gados.
Darren Delongio, Jeff Gados.
Mado Mabo Hedges good. You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local.
Listen to The Brew for the best classic hits of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. KOKL, Okmulgee, Oklahoma.